السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بل الإنسان على نفسه بصيرة ولو ألقى معاذيره. Today I want to talk about self-analysis. The translation of the verses I just recited is, "Nay, man is a witness against himself, even though he puts forward his excuses." Now, self-analysis is not something exclusive to Islam. It happens around us all the time in the world. For example, you have companies doing performance reviews with their employees, or athletes analyzing their performance and trying to look at how to improve and how to become better, or a student analyzing his revision technique, trying to isolate things, for example, that he doesn't know as well, improving those, and thereby overall improving his knowledge and increasing his chances of success in upcoming exams. The thing is that constantly evolving and moving forward prevents stagnation. If you're always trying to look at how to improve, how to become better, then you avoid the risk of becoming stuck and standing still at where you are if you're always trying to look at how to progress and how to move forward. And the Promised Messiah ﷺ expressed the same idea when he gave the example of a flowing and a stagnant river. And both of those rivers contain water, and they both, at the bottom of them on the bed of the river, have impurities and dirt and soil and mud. But the difference between the two is that the flowing river, because the water is continuously moving, it doesn't pick up the impurities and the dirt that exist on the bottom of the riverbed, and thereby that water stays clean. Whereas with stagnant water, because it's the same water, it stays still, it picks up those impurities, and therefore it becomes dirty. But the thing is, in Islam, self-analysis is much deeper than a company's performance review. Because in Islam tells you to hold yourself accountable to yourself. Because when it comes to this performance review, or anywhere in life about being questioned about why you've done something or you haven't done something, you can give excuses as to why I did this or why I didn't do this. And people don't know what's in anybody's heart, so who knows the truth. But when you hold yourself accountable to yourself, because you know yourself better than anybody else, there's no hiding, there's no excuses, because you know really what you did, why you did what you did, what your intentions were. And so that's why Islam tells us to hold ourselves accountable to ourselves. But that's not actually the ultimate accountability. That's only preparation, that's only preliminary accountability, which is allowing you to prepare yourself for the ultimate analysis and the ultimate accountability, which is being held accountable by God. And that's exactly the idea that this verse expresses, that man is a witness against himself, even if he puts his excuses, even if he presents excuses. Ultimately, you're a witness against yourself, because you know the truth behind your own intentions. And that's gets to the very heart of why self-analysis is so important. The Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says in a hadith, when someone came to him and asked him about sin and righteousness, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, if you want to know what sin is and what righteous is, what's wrong and what's right, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, ask your soul and ask your heart. And he said that righteousness is that which reassures your conscience and your heart, as in which feels good, which feels right, because you just know if something's right or if something's wrong. And then he also says, sin is that which pricks your conscience and places doubt in your heart, even if people approve of what you're doing again and again. Because ultimately, if something's right, you just know if it's right, and you feel comfortable when doing it. When you're doing something wrong, something bothers you inside. Something pricks your conscience, and it causes you to feel doubt, because you're just not sure. There's something wrong. And that innate quality in us is why self-analysis is accessible to everybody, and why it's such an important part of how to become a better person. In another hadith, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, when defining or explaining or telling us how to identify what sin is, he says that righteousness is having good morals, but sin is that which pricks your conscience, and not only does it prick your conscience, it's something that you'd hate for others to find out about you. That's a really good way of analyzing our actions. That if people knew that we did this thing, how would they react? And if you wouldn't want them to know that we've done this, then it's wrong. Now there is this idea that some people present that you could self-analyze by using the standard of, if someone else saw me doing this, then and I wouldn't like them seeing it, then it's wrong. But the thing is, that doesn't apply. For example, there's like, I don't know, for example, having a shower. That is a necessarily private thing, but the fact that it's private and the fact that you don't want people to see that is not because it's wrong. That's just because it's private. The idea of the principle expressed by the Prophet Muhammad here, that you'd hate for others to find out, is a really good principle, because that goes right down to the most private and intimate and personal of our actions. There's no excuse of seeing or not, of privacy or being public. If we use the principle of that if others found out what we did, they'd hate it, as a way of analyzing our actions, we can get right to the bottom of exactly what we're doing is right and exactly what we're doing is wrong. And in fact, this idea that we know exactly what's right and wrong, the second Khalifa, may Allah be pleased with him, expressed this idea as an argument for the existence of God, because he says that human nature itself testifies to the existence of God. And as an example, he says that why does even an atheist, someone who doesn't even believe in God, why does he differentiate between his mother and sister and close female relatives and other women when it comes to marriage, for example? Or why does he dislike lying, for example, if God doesn't exist? Why is it that this inherent dislike for these things? It's because of that internal morality. And that doesn't matter if you're an atheist or if you're a believer, whoever you are. Everybody has that granted as an innate part of us, something which Allah Ta'ala has placed in our nature. And in that way, everybody can self-analyze and no one's left out. Huzur, the current Khalifa, may Allah be his helper, has repeatedly said again and again in his sermons, Apne jaize lete raho. Continually self-analyze. Keep checking, keep analyzing, keep assessing yourself, seeing where you're going wrong, fixing that, and turning your bad deeds into good deeds, and your good deeds and making them into better deeds, and continually walking on that path of self-improvement. Now, self-analysis is something that requires no special knowledge or circumstances at all. Anyone can do it at any time and anywhere because it's an inherent part of our nature. It doesn't require anything external. That's why it's such a powerful tool, and it's something that nobody has an excuse about when it comes to avoiding it. No one has a reason to not do it because it's accessible for every person, and it's something that everybody can and should do. There's a really famous quote which I found, which was, the Japanese say that you have three faces. The first face you show to the world. The second face you show only to your friends and family. And the third face you never show anybody. That's your private self, the most intimate part of yourself that only you allow yourself to see. And that third face, which only you see and nobody else sees, that is the truest reflection of who you are. Because at that point, you're not acting because of fear or to impress anybody else. That third face is really who you are, because then you're acting purely because of your own will and desire, not under the pressure or influence of everybody else. And because only you can see that third face, and that third face is truly what you are, that's why the most effective way of analyzing, the most effective analysis is self-analysis, which Islam repeatedly encourages us to keep doing continuously. There's a famous quote of Hazrat Umar, radiallahu anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, where he says, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu." That call yourselves to account before you're called to account. As in, analyze yourself before the day you're analyzed, i.e. on the day of judgment. The thing is, self-analysis is only useful when you have a chance to rectify your mistakes, because without that, you'll only end up with regret if you end up self-analyzing, or you're analyzed at a time where you then no longer have the opportunity to change what you've done. And that's what will happen at the day of judgment. If only the first time your analysis happens is when God analyzes you, rather than you self-analyze, as we find written in the Quran, people then will ask God Almighty, give us another chance, send us back, we'll act differently. But the thing is, the reason why the people who then deliberately disobey God are deserving of punishment is because it's not like they didn't know before, because of this inherent ability to self-analyze that we all have. This is what happened to Pharaoh. His examples in the Holy Quran. When he was drowning and he finally declared that he believed in Allah, just as he was about to drown because he was punished by God, Allah the Almighty says to him in the Holy Quran, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Al-ana wa qad asayta qabla. Al-ana wa qad asayta qablu wa kunta min al-mufsidin. That what now? Now. You believe now. But before this you disobeyed me, and you were among those who spread disorder. So that's exactly the fate we want to avoid, where just before you're about to die or after you die, only then do you end up thinking, what was I doing? What have I done? Why did I do what I do? When you realize that the world actually doesn't matter and everything is temporary anyway, and then you start thinking about your actions, what you've done, and what you should have done. Now, the entire quote that I mentioned, just a snippet of before, where I said, "Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu," that call yourselves to account, analyze before you're called to account, self-analyze before you're analyzed. The entire quote is, call yourselves to account before you are called to account, and weigh your deeds before they are weighed. Because if you call yourselves to account today, your reckoning will be easier tomorrow, i.e. on the Day of Judgment. Prepare yourselves for the ultimate reckoning. On the day you will be presented before God, none of your secrets will remain hidden. As in, on that day, everything will come out. And all the self-analysis that we should have done on that day, if we haven't self-analyzed, will be analyzed and brought out for us. So that's exactly why the Hazrat Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, call yourselves to account before you are called to account. As in, self-analyze before you are analyzed. And the reason he gives for that is because on the day you'll be presented before God, none of your secrets will remain hidden. And that's something nobody wants, because not only will all our secrets be laid bare, worse than that will be the regret, because we won't be able to change them. That the idea of YOLO, you only live once, which is used as a reason to live hedonistically and just to party your life away, which is anathema to the idea of religion. Is exactly, YOLO itself is a justification for the exact opposite. If YOLO is a reason for some people they can take that as a reason to party and waste their life away, YOLO, you only live once, it's the exact same reason for why you should do the exact opposite, which is continually self-analyze, avoid the entrapments and pitfalls of the world, try and become righteous, ignore the pleasures of the world, and try and focus on giving your life real meaning and trying to become a better person and developing a relationship with God. Because YOLO, you're only going to live once. The life isn't going to come back again. And the way to give your life meaning is by continuously self-analyzing. May Allah enable us to understand the importance of self-analyzing and always continue to do so. Ameen.